Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the home of truth, logic, and common sense here, the Illinois Freedom Caucus Tuesday night town hall and roundtable. And I'm joined by I don't want to say most of our team. I guess we got half of our team here. So with that, we've got Treasurer of the Illinois Freedom Caucus from Decatur, Dan Calkins, Freedom Caucus and founding member Adam Niemerg from Dietrich, and our State Director, Colin Mosley. Welcome, gentlemen. With that, Dan, why don't we just kick off a welcome from you, and then we'll go to Adam and then to Blaine, and then we'll get into kind of our topic for this evening.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Brad, pulling us together again. It's good to be with everybody. Taking a week off here between sessions and kind of enjoying the weather. Hopefully it's green, and you guys will be out in the field soon. So look forward to this evening's conversation. We've got some good things to talk about.
Yeah, we sure do, Dan. Thank you for that. And with that, Adam, what's going on over on the 102? I'm losing track. I'm still trying to get familiar with all these numbers. The 102, you had a big week and a half, a week ago or so. It's been a big spring for you. What's going on?
Yes, thanks, Brad. And folks, thank you so much for your prayers, your support, and big win last Tuesday. You made it very clear that the Chicago special interest groups, you told them to take a hike, and I'm very proud of everybody. Our turnout was unbelievable. We're sitting at about 88% of the vote right now, and that could go up. So to see everybody turn out, to get out, to cast those votes, and to not only fill in that bubble and write in my name, that takes a lot, folks. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And guys, it's looking like right now we got 88% of the vote. It's a complete and total blowout, and $350,000 was spent against us. So it's looking like they're pushing about $300 to $400 a vote here. So all that money wasted, and it was a complete blowout.
Yeah, excellent. And we'll talk a little bit more about these primaries here momentarily. And with that, State Director Colin Mosley, what's going on in the state directorship?
Well, Brad, you called me Blaine earlier, and I'm not sure if I feel blessed or cursed, but it's good to be here today. And it's a beautiful spring day. Of course, it's a little wet out. I need to mow, but that's not going to happen today. But good to be here, and we're certainly, as we do this tonight, this morning we saw a tragedy in Baltimore with the collapse of the Key Bridge, and so we just want to take a second. We certainly pray for all the responders and the families that are involved in that rescue and recovery, and certainly hope they have a safe endeavor rescuing people, and our hearts are certainly with them. But good to be here this evening, and looking forward to talking about our victory lap here from our primary victories.
Exactly. Yeah, I've got a good friend that owns a racetrack, and I told him the other night I'd like someday to be able to get in one of them stock cars and hold the checkered flag out the window and run laps around the track. And he invited me to come over and at least drop the green flag someday. So we may get to do that this summer. So anyhow, with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into our slides. And so just going to kind of give a primary recap here, kind of a spring session update of what's going on. And Adam touched on this a little bit about his victory. And we have some other things to talk about. So where do we want to go? Adam, why don't we just give a few more details about your race, and then maybe we can talk about Blaine since he's not here, and then Dan, and then maybe I can wrap up about mine.
Yep, sounds good. So again, folks, we had a great victory. We've got 95% of precincts reporting. We're looking in the 8,000 vote range versus my opponent, very low. It's 88 to 12 right now with 95% precincts reporting. Again, they spent upwards of is actually $363,500 is what they spent trying to take this seat. And the grassroots conservatives you guys just came out and folks, you spoke your mind and you voted, and I have to thank you for that. And it's just a clear message that Southeast Illinois here, we're tired of the status quo. We're tired of what's going on in Springfield, especially in Chicago. And I really appreciate your vote and being willing to get out and vote for that 88-12 victory. So it's just a clear message, that this seat can't be bought. And you go over to Blaine's district, and it's the same thing, 79 to 21. Now, I will say this. I think Blaine's win would have been a little bit more had there not been a write-in line in certain parts of his counties in his district, because he was challenged as well, and they had to put a write-in line. So I think I took some votes away from him in a few counties, and otherwise his victory I think would have been more. But 79-21, this is just unprecedented for a primary, folks. Typically, you put your name on the ballot in Blaine's instance, and you're supposed to at least get about 30% of the vote, and that didn't even get close. In my instance, it's 88-12. So they're complete blowouts, and it sends a clear message in Blaine's district and in my district, as well as you can talk about your race, Brad. But I just want to say thank you to everybody who came out and voted. Thank you for the donations, the support, and the prayers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, it was an interesting primary as I'm out knocking doors and talking to people. I mean, it wasn't a high-profile primary this year. A lot of folks didn't know that we were having a March 19th primary. So a voter contact was really, really important going into March 19th and making sure that people turned out. I know in Adam and Blaine, you guys' territory, I'm sure everybody was kind of aware of that, but there was always kind of the intricacies of it, and the top of the ticket, the presidential stuff drives people, or it doesn't. And so maybe that was a little bit of a factor. I mean, we had some of these counties, in the teens, under 20% voter turnout. And there was that spread in my district for the 107. We had from, high teens to low 30% voter turnout. But again, folks turned out overall, 68-32 was my win. I'm grateful for that. I'm thankful for everyone that I was able to meet over the last several weeks and months and year in the new district, and thankful for the big victory. I think that's a huge deal, that conservatism is still a thing. People still want conservative-minded legislators. They understand the difficulty that we face in Springfield, that we're outnumbered, but yet there's things that we can continue to do to push back against the far left Marxist. Dan, anything you want to say about your replacement in the 88th and Regan Deering's win?
Well, yeah, I was just reading some literature that I got from my state rep. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands. Well, we came together last fall, coalesced around Regan, and put the team together. I think it's kind of a textbook approach to campaigning. Solid team. We knew that McLean County represents about half of the new 88th district, which was deliberately drawn a couple of years ago to try to get me out of the world of politics. Obviously didn't happen. We had a 70%, almost 70% of the people in the 88th district voted for Regan. We won every county, some by really large margins, and McLean County we won by a smaller margin, but yet proved that hard work, good plan, and is just sticking to the plan every day will get you through an election. So looking forward to Regan getting together with the Freedom Caucus soon here in Springfield. We're moving forward, and I'll be here till January. So we've got lots to do between now and then.
Yeah, exactly. Let me, Colin, we'll just go to you. I'm going to just take this slide off the screen for a minute. We'll go back full screen for us. But the Democrats had some primaries of their own, and a couple of their incumbent members lost. Well, I guess it was the one in the House and one in the Senate. Incumbent members lost. So can you expand upon that a little bit, Colin?
Absolutely. So, first and foremost, in the House, we see Mary Flowers, who has been a legislator for, I think, 38 years from Chicago. African-American lady. She was started, like I said, I mean, back in the 80s, I think. And this is an example of what happens when you cross Speaker Welch, because what we saw was, last year we started hearing some rumblings of some discord with Mary and caucus, and the speaker comes in with a primary for Mary Flowers, this elderly, African-American lady. And they went so low as there were other incumbent Democrats that were taking time away from Springfield to go knock doors for her opponent, and they beat her. And, 4 or 5 years ago, Mary Flowers was one of the worst, most woke leftist legislators in Springfield. That was 5 years ago. Today, yeah, she's still terrible on most policies, but she is like a 7 now on the scale, and there are plenty of 10s. Will Guzzardi and Kelly Cassidy and these other communists. So, Mary Flowers, because she doesn't bow down to the speaker, she's out. And that's the kind of cannibalism that they're doing. And then you go to the Senate, very similar situation. You have Senator Natalie Toro, who is a Democrat, was a little progressive, but the other Senate Democrats came in and said, nope, if you're not a hard progressive, if you don't want all of these things that we want, we're going to come in and beat you. And so people came in for this Guzman lady, and literally in her victory statement, she said, this sends a message that we will not tolerate people who are not, basically vehemently progressive.
Wow.
So that's the direction you're seeing the Democrat caucus go in the House and the Senate.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, let's move on to our next subject here. And this is kind of what's going on in Springfield right now. Gentlemen, I'll just kick it off. We're on spring or Easter break here, Holy Week, to observe that. And gentlemen, what's your experience in Springfield so far this spring, and kind of what's that mean and where we hit?
Well, there's bills that are moving. Some of them are, most of them are very mild. There are, every now and then they'll throw in something that makes you, lights you on fire. But those bills are all being, I guess, held on second. That's kind of an inside story. The sponsor wants to get the bill out of committee because they have a deadline to do that, but yet they know the bill isn't ready to go to the House floor for vote. So the Democrat sponsor, will want the bill passed out of committee, knowing that it's incomplete. Nobody knows exactly what the final verbiage is going to be, but they promise to bring it back with an amendment or two before we see it on the House floor. So even though we've passed several bills, a lot of the bills that could have serious consequences, we have no idea what the final draft is going to be of those bills. So we'll see what next week brings, and then the fun starts.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Dan, you're absolutely correct. Folks, on that, Dan's going into how legislation works and what we're going to go through in the coming weeks. But there's something important that the Dems will play some games on this. So what they'll do is they'll say, I'd like to hold the bill for a floor amendment to get it out of committee, because we have deadline next Friday, I believe. So what they'll do is they'll say, okay, can we take a vote to get this out of committee, and I'll run what's called a floor amendment. And then the committee, a lot of the times, will say, okay, they'll put the trust in that legislator to say, okay, I'll run the floor amendment. Then when you get to the floor, you have to watch and make sure that they run that amendment, because that can completely change the bill. What I do in committee when I see that, there was one last week where they said, okay, we're going to run a floor amendment. We want to get it out of committee because the committee deadline. It would change the bill entirely. It went from, the bill right now is a shall, and they want to change it to a may, meaning a shall is you have to do it, a may is you don't have to do it if you don't want to. But the bill that came out of committee is still a shall, but the floor amendment was going to switch it to a may. So if that happens, the bill is fine. But I made sure that I put up a no vote. I forced a roll call vote on that bill to flag it to at least one Republican were to vote no, to make sure that when it hits the floor, that everybody can see that amendment needs to run on it. And then also I can see that if that does not change, I can put a no vote on the floor. So it's just the games that the Dems will play to try to get their legislation through. I saw a bill last week where we changed the word offender to justice impacted individual. So it's no longer somebody that commits an offense. They're justice impacted. There was a bill that came through last week. This is real, guys. This stuff is happening. That is climate.
It's true.
Curriculum for climate change in all high school curricula. ISB would draft that language. I asked questions about it. I asked if we could have the other side discuss how Al Gore's doomsday clock never came to fruition. But then I was able to get it out of the bill sponsor that we would still have local control, so school boards can still opt out of this bill. There's a bill in the Senate that I'm watching that gives illegals a guaranteed income. So we've got a lot going on, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the biggest thing I see in these committee actions, similar to what you're seeing, but when we question Democrat sponsors about their bill, they don't have any answers. They sometimes stumble around. Oh, well, we're working on an amendment, and with this promise and commitment to bring it back. I mean, most of the ones that I've seen are making commitments to bring it back to committee, get it out on second reading, right? But then they'll bring it back. So we have to make sure that we remember that stuff as spokespersons on committee, or even if we're just a member of that committee, and make sure our staff remembers that stuff. So when they try to run this stuff and pull the shenanigans, Adam, that you talked about potentially could happen, where they might try to mislead us in committee and mislead us on the floor. That's where we have to be on our toes. That's where experience and good staff really makes all the difference.
Most of the time when they promise to bring stuff back, you can equate that to Joe Biden's Build Back Better. It never happens that way.
Well, yeah. I mean, it does. But
I mean, that's never better. It's almost never better. I mean, most of the time it's smoke and mirrors.
Right. Well, that's what happens. It after doing this for a few years, and Brad, you've been there a couple of times longer than I have. I'm amazed that the Democrats who control the process come up with these bills and they bring them to committee without them being complete. I mean, they've had months and months and months to put these bills together, to pull these things together. I know these ideas aren't coming from Illinois. A lot of them are California bills or New York bills that they're trying to adapt to the Illinois General Assembly, but I don't understand why their bills are just totally incomplete. I mean, they're not workable. They don't, the wording isn't right, but yet they've had months to work on this. Oftentimes when we bring a bill to a committee, there's substance. There may be something that you want to work with on these groups to make your bill better, to make it fit, to try to find a way to bring some of the opposition on board. But the bills that I've seen in these committees they're not that. The ideas are not fleshed out. The language isn't correct. And yet this is who controls the process. I'm just dumbfounded, really.
Yeah. Well, that's why the second half of this slide is so important too, I think, because when we do hit floor action and we see the stuff come through that Dan's talking about, we need you to be on alert, because when we kick our emails out, our Facebook posts, for your calls, your emails, your witness slips, I know it's frustrating because sometimes you don't feel like the impact of those things is felt totally by the Democrats, but we can all list examples of times where it did work, where they did feel the pressure, where we could delay something or change something. So that's why we need you in the masses to be willing to jump on with us when stuff goes down in Springfield.
Yeah, exactly right. Because the shenanigans will ensue without a doubt. And it's just that, so this coming week, when we go back, I mean, guys, I think we've only passed 2 bills out, right? One of those was the Chicago School Board bill, and that was kind of a timing related issue to make sure they get all that through the system to get their elected members done on time. That was done. But it's all committee action. What was interesting to me is, I'm not sure, I didn't do an exact total, but I know one committee that was for Friday morning that I had was canceled. I know there was some others that were canceled. I mean, some of these committees have barely met, and we've had, or will have, including next week, I think 7 weeks to do committee work. And some of these committees have canceled or maybe not met yet. Some bills are moving, some of them aren't. I thought, well, once we get by the primary, it'll be different. Well, maybe they're just going to pile it all into next week, and it's going to be long days. Could be 2, 3, 4 hour committee hearings each. Who knows?
Well, now we're in appropriations time too. I mean, that's time consuming.
Right. Exactly.
It's interesting because, a committee that I've served on here for the last 5 years, this prescription drug committee, hasn't met. I mean, this is one of the bigger committees. This is where the insulin bill came through. All of these things have come through that committee. and Representative Williams hasn't even called a committee hearing yet. That's a substantial committee.
Mm-hmm.
The cybersecurity committee is kind of a off the charts, 2 or 3 bills a year. We were canceled Friday. So, I mean, there's 2 of the 5 committees that I'm on that haven't even met this year.
But thank God the Restorative Justice and Equity Committees met.
Right. And the ethics.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, unless there's any closing comments on that, let me bring up our last slide here. This is kind of where you go to find us, IllinoisFreedomCaucus.org. And then the donate button, if you'd like to further our effort financially, you can participate there. And we've got a new Substack. Our email is now on Substack. Colin, you want to explain that or talk about that just a touch? Is that helping us, making it better for some reasons, evidently?
Yeah, so Substack's pretty cool because as opposed to receiving our old email blast where it just came to you and that was it, the Substack email it's sort of like getting a publication from a news source or whatever, where it does come to you, but it's a lot easier. You can share our Substack articles on your social media pages or to other subscribers. And the other thing is people can easily, it's like Twitter, people can easily retweet, or it's called restack our stuff. So other congressmen and freedom caucuses from across the country, we can all sort of restack everyone's stuff and get the message out there easier. So, and it's free. So that's even better, right?
Right. So our subscribers are still going to receive this, but a person can just go and put this web address in IllinoisFreedomCaucus.substack.com and they can find it, right? They don't have to be a subscriber. Okay.
Yep.
Good. All right. Excellent. Anything else, Colin, on that? If not, let's go to Adam for a closing comment, and Dan, and we'll wrap this up for this evening.
Thank you, Brad. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in with us here this evening. As always, reach out to us if you need any help, whatever district that you're in. Just get in touch with our offices or call us directly. We're happy to help. Constituent services is a big part of this job. We take it very seriously. But again, there's very few people in Springfield that are willing to tackle the issues and to tackle them head on. Because you get met with a lot of resistance if you do. And you are looking at a few of the gentlemen that do that as well as the other Freedom Caucus members. So your support is vitally important. And again, thank you for the great voter turnout, for writing my name in to help us beat the woke left. It means a lot to me. And thank you for Blaine's district and Brad's district, everybody, for getting out and casting those votes to keep the Freedom Caucus together. And everybody have a good night.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Adam. Dan?
Great to be with you all again. This week is going to be interesting. Paying attention to what's going on. We've just seen story after story after story about the destruction of the school choice program in Illinois. There is some hope that perhaps a bill or something in the budget will help us get back to invest in kids. That's something that we're all focused on. So that will be a topic for next week, I'm sure. But till next week when we see you all again, thank you. Give a shout out to my state rep for doing a great job, crushing it again last Tuesday.
Thanks, Dan. Colin, any closing thoughts?
All I have is I keep this Blaine Wilhauer hit piece mailer / Matt Hall mailer in front of me as motivation to continue to kick the I got.
Well, with that, guys, just like Adam says, we're here to help you. We've got district offices around the district. We have people in Springfield that's full-time. Also, you can search any of our names and find us about anywhere on the Webernet. And with that, we just always covet that you will like, share, follow, and subscribe to our content to help us overcome the algorithmic gods of the big tech overlords as they continue to double down. We need your help. And this Substack stuff may be one of the best tools to help us do that, because at any given time, the big tech overlords just shut the switch off and we're off the air or off the internet. So we need your help to spread this message around the universe and to get this to continue the conservative movement. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close out, say good evening, and we'll talk to you real soon.